What's going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. Today I would like to go over an install commission that I completed on a Graflex FX kit from KR Sabers. So this is a kit that the folks at KR offer. You can get it in a New Hope configuration or Empire configuration. You've got to assemble it yourself, but they offer both versions. Khal and company released this kit, I think last year or late last year. And Khal, it was in development for a while. And Khal did mention that this hilt or this kit was designed with installers in mind. And that is definitely the case, right? So my experience with this particular kit, I've done a few of them. They are absolutely great for install, right? So I've done a Graflex install video recently where I spoke about, how difficult it is to not only install on a Graflex, but design a chassis for one. This kit makes things a heck of a lot easier, right? So your switches are already wired up through a pre-made, like there are pre-made PCBs. Everything is just very nicely designed with install in mind, right? So I think this is an absolutely phenomenal kit. It's a very, very high quality kit. Wanna Wanga was part of the development of this, and I think some of the parts are from them. So yeah, it's a very, very wonderful kit. I designed a twist lock chassis for this particular install. I did print, or I had the chassis printed in MJF Nylon, rather. So I do want to come into Fusion and talk a little bit about the chassis. And then obviously we'll come up top and we'll do a demo, put a blade in it, and then we'll be on our way, right? So let's come into Fusion. Okay, so here it is. This is a twist lock chassis that I designed for the KR Sabers Graflex FX kit, right? So pretty straightforward chassis. This Graflex, like most Graflexes, there was plenty of room on the internals, so I was able to get a lot of greebly action on both sides of this chassis. I have an OLED as well, and around the other side, I just did there are holes for two round static LEDs. I think in this one, I put a green and an orange in this build, right? Battery tray is here. At the bottom, we've got a fully enclosed 28mm speaker. This is from Smugglers Outpost. And of course, around the other side, this is where our Proffie board sits. It kind of press fits down in here and will slide up underneath this lip. Kill switch is down here below the board. And that is pretty much it. I did put onboard red tactile switches on the chassis. This is just so the chassis can kind of be used while outside of the hilt. When I've got an OLED and everything, and I'm pulling the chassis out, personally, I would like to be able to kind of like hit the aux button, change fonts, and things like that, right? So I just did put two regular red button tactile switches on it. Up top, we have our 6-rail PCB. This is what makes a connection to the upper part of the hilt where our switches and lit PCB emitter are. And this channel that goes down the side of this neck section or this nipple section of the chassis, this is how we achieve a twist lock. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we come up top, which we're going to do right now. Come along with me. All right, so here it is. We are talking about yet another Graflex. So this Graflex is a little different than your regular run-of-the-mill Graflex, right? Because up in this area, it's almost like a sleeve that houses the switch PCBs, right? So one of the things that is always difficult about designing a chassis for a Graflex is this toggle switch here, right? They're always difficult to design a chassis for, but because we've got a switch PCB underneath this already, it is just a really, really nice tactile button. You don't have to like mess with toggling it or anything. So this is your aux switch. And then the same thing around back where the red button is. Underneath this is a switch PCB. I believe both of them were designed by Stock, but they're great solution for this particular build, right? So those two things are always the hardest to design a chassis for. So the way that I approached this was I designed a very small PCB holder that sits in here. This entire sleeve will come out. You've got to take the bunny ears off. You've got to take the pins out, but the whole sleeve will come out. I wire up my switches and my lit PCB emitter. And then I designed a very small chassis to hold that 6-rail PCB, the male end of that. And that is secured in place with a set screw. Already set screws in here as well, which is another thing that I really appreciated about this kit. So yeah, that's how I achieved a removable twist lock chassis, okay? Let's talk about how to use this guy. Well, first of all, let's talk about the outside of it, right? So this was sent to me by the customer unassembled, right? So I had to assemble the fins. I had to, so the D-ring down here in the Cobalt, this has been riveted. So these are real rivets. This is not like epoxied in place. This is actually riveted in place. I did add the reflective tape here. And then of course, because this is an Empire configuration, we have a red button up front, but this is not usable, right? It's just decorative essentially, right? Really, really cool hilt. So let's talk about how to use this guy. So to get your grip off, you want to undo this clamp. So another thing that I do with these builds, right? So this clamp card is glued in place, but it is only glued on one side. So that way you can still open up your clamp, but it won't slide out and fall out, right? So that's what I usually do with Graflex installs. Undo your clamp. You want to kind of push up and twist and pull that grip off. Let's take this chassis out. So to loosen the chassis, you want to twist away from you and pull it out. So here is that chassis, right? Nice. I really like the detail that I'm getting from MJF Nylon and Craft Cloud. I really think that it's really, really decent detail on there. So we've got our OLED here, battery tray. Here is our speaker. Let me get a battery. Okay, so once you get your battery, flat part of the battery is your negative side. Spring side is your negative in the chassis. Put your battery in place. So this was already on. There's that OLED screen. There are those two round LEDs. And then of course we've got our Proffie board on the back. So once you get your battery in, another thing that I neglected to talk about, right? So another cool feature that is built into this kit, that inner sleeve that I was talking about, you can put a set screw. There's a hole for a set screw in there. And that is what I use to guide the chassis and clock the chassis. So you'll kind of have to feel for where that screw is. When you found it, push it all the way in and twist. Another thing that I put on the chassis is just a rubber O-ring, and that just kind of helps secure it in place, right? So find that screw, twist it towards you, and you're ready to go. Right. So once you got your chassis in, you can put your grip back on. You're ready to go. Let's come down to the bottom. Okay, yeah, just a great, really, really great kit for installation, right? Let's see what else we put on here.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Graflexes are never comfortable to hold. I mean, they're giant. The grips are giant. All right, so let's put a blade in this and do a quick demo. All right, so this is a 1-inch blade holder. Behind this front red button, I have tapped and threaded a hole for your blade retention. So typically with Graflex installs and Graflex hilts, I've seen where you can use this flathead screw as your blade retention. I wouldn't recommend doing that because that is what's holding in this upper piece, this upper lip that is holding that inner core in place. So I did pop a hole for blade retention, but it's underneath that red button, right? So you want to take your blade, get it past those bunny ears, put it all the way down so it's resting on those PCB pins. I'm going to tighten that set screw just so it's hugging the blade. It's a really snug blade holder, right? So then you're ready to go. Let's see what else we put on here.
Commander Skywalker, do you copy?
So I think I put on some requests from the customer. I think they're mostly original trilogy fonts. So to the customer, this has also been set up with a color wheel, or you can change the color of your blade on the fly. To do that, you want to hold down your aux button, which is this toggle back here. Hold down the aux button and tap your main.
Red, white,
And then you want to twist the hilt till you find a color you like.
moccasin, light cyan.
Hit that main button again and it'll lock that color in. One more.
Meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So it's a great kit. I highly recommend this kit for any installers out there, or even like some hobbyists who want to give, who want to take a stab at installing and really, really want a Graflex. I've said this in my most recent Graflex video. I've been looking for a reason to get an ESB configuration hilt. I would highly recommend this kit that comes from KR Sabers. It's a really, really well-made kit. And if you're a Graflex fan like me, it's just a great kit for install, right? So anyhow, that's all I got. To the customer, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. If anyone has any questions about this particular install or anything really, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.